Hello and welcome to Menopause and Beyond.
Yes, and lots of wisdom involved.
In lots of wisdom. So I've loved Chinese medicine. It's been around for thousands of years. There's so much history, there's so much power, there's so much good stuff. It's been around for at least 2,000-3,000 years. And I've always, when I've come across it, it's always worked really well. There's a lot of wisdom in it. There's a lot of energy in it. So we were looking at the Chinese medicine approach to menopause, which you'll be surprised to know is really positive, about taking the wisdom that is women and the stages women go through, not as being old and coping, but as being really positive steps and forward at every stage.
Transitions, which is kind of what we've talked about. And we found this as a great article. Clarissa Kristjansson, she posted it on good old Mutton Club, Rachel Lancaster's, and she talks about how in Taoism a woman's life is divided into kind of 7-year cycle. And so she talks about this, and they've always advocated, it says, early preparation for perimenopause to prevent the more difficult symptoms, which we have talked about, you know, how you plan it and all the rest of it. And it just says, so what the cycles are. So the 5th cycle is age 35 to 41, and they see this as rejuvenation. So that's early preparation for menopause. It says it marks the start of a slow decline, but an opportunity for reflection around our lifestyle.
Which is
so, you know, observing our habits. And the question is, what is and what is not working for you? So that is a great thing to be thinking about. So 35 to 41.
What was the name of that cycle?
It's called rejuvenation.
Rejuvenation. I like that. And I think that does fall when a lot of women have perhaps just had children, or the children are getting a bit older, or they have decided not to have children. And they're doing other things like traveling or whatever. It is a time when you've kind of gone through the accidental tripping of life and start making more conscious decisions.
Yeah, and that whole thing, really what is and what is not working. So that's that age. And then the next cycle, 42 to 48, detoxification. But it says in traditional Chinese facial diagnosis, this is the time a woman begins to own her face.
Oh, I like that.
You own your face. And so you can move forward with grace. And it says life is something different. We near the end of the menstrual cycle. Think about your body. How are you feeling? You know, and looking at all of that, you know. So, and I love this, what needs to be removed because it no longer serves you.
Yeah.
So that's detoxification.
Which is a really lovely way of what we don't do in the West, in that way.
Yeah.
As detoxification is sorting out your liver and sorting out this, but actually I love the owning your face, because it is like you become you and you get rid of that old. So it's detoxing, on which we've spoken about in different ways. Detoxing your life, perhaps moving new ways forward. So, and this is the age that preps you for menopause. So you've gone through deliberate choices, rejuvenation. You've gone through detoxification, and you've got rid of stuff that doesn't suit you.
That's right.
You own who you are and the skin you're walking in.
Yeah. And then the next cycle is 49 to 55. It says the water phase, the time of the wisdom keeper, which is the end and the death of our reproductive years, a time for deep reflection and rest.
Isn't that nice?
So that's when most people in this country kind of go through menopause, 49 to 55.
Yes, it is the typical.
But instead of seeing this as horrific, you know, awful, dreadful time, you know, oh my God, I'm not really looking forward to that. What they're saying is it's about reflection and rest.
Yes.
I've come to the end of that phase of my life. I'm just kind of thinking about this. I'm just pausing here.
Yeah.
So it is a menopause, isn't it? I'm just pausing here.
Yes.
Pausing here.
I really like that. I really like that. So
the wisdom keeper.
And we probably have done a lot of things in our life, whatever that is. And it is the time perhaps to return to what best suits us for the peace and tranquility.
For next, And then cycle 8 and beyond, it says 56 plus the rebirth, the second spring.
Oh, I like that.
Obligations shift from being outwardly focused on others to honouring the self.
That's good, because it is about
So how brilliant is that?
growing, whatever you want to call it, your higher self, growing your soul, growing your intellect, growing your true being, that essence that we have.
Yeah.
That I think everyone has an essence, that they're more than the body and the brain, even though I don't care what your religious belief is, but there's a sense of self.
Yeah.
That isn't just kind of, I am this and I am this. And it is just growing that sense of self, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think that's good. So from 35 to 55, what you have is rejuvenation, detoxification, the wisdom, the water, and the wisdom keeper, reflection and rest, and then the rebirth, the second spring.
And I think
what a great transition. I mean, that is
it's a good and
way of viewing that transition, isn't it?
And what's different is we go, Jing, come on, whereas they're actually going, this rebirth is the beginning of the new part of your life.
Yeah,
which is
spring.
Kind of what we say, that you're having a whole new life, but with lots of wisdom.
Yeah, and we kind of talk about hormonally going back to being a child, but with 40 years experience. But hopefully, money in the bank, in that sense, that you can actually do something about it. But it's the I just love that kind of the way that it's a process. Every 7 years, you're kind of working through this cycle. So again, it's a natural process. It doesn't need to be interfered with. It doesn't need to be stopped. It doesn't need to be regarded, oh my God, because you're getting older and your face is, sagging and a bit wrinkly. What they're saying is no, because you are getting older, but let's go through that. And I love that, owning your face. I
do, and maybe it's definitely a progression. And I know every 7 years you change every cell in your body. And I think that's a really, I know it is a biological fact, but it's I think it's a nice ideal to sort of sit with as well, that we do have these 7 year opportunities to be a whole new person every 7 years. And the other part that strikes me is, if we interrupt that, it sort of stops this lovely progression. So almost stopping at detoxification means we stay there detoxing forever and a day, or we stop at repairing, rather than allowing change. And people do struggle with change. And I know we've talked about this before, but I think it's allowing change and encouraging change, and just seeing what you face when you walk through that change. And
I just love that whole thing of saying, well, actually, yes, it is the end of this phase. It is the end of our reproductive cycle, is the death of that kind of part of our lives. But actually, after that, that relaxation and rest, then you have rebirth, and you're moving forward into what am I doing now? With, so from here, it's like from 56 onwards. For people, menopause itself, in a sense, peri and menopause can end, in any of those kind of 15 years, in a sense that it's there. But what they're saying is, well, you've moved through that transition physically, but actually part of that is a mental acceptance, moving forward, an audit of your life, looking at what is working, what's not working, and moving forward. So even from there, from the age of 56, you've still got another 35 years to be going. And what are you going to do with that in your second spring?
Which is absolutely lovely. So I think there's acceptance of change, is a calmness, whereas people want to control change.
And you
almost can't. So once we accept that things will change, but there's going to be wonder in that. It's not all. So I don't like the word aging. I prefer maturity. And then I was talking to somebody and they said, I don't like either. And I get that. I do get that. And then somebody says, isn't it the same? And I went, yeah, but for me, maturation means growing up, means going into
being a grown-up.
Well, I don't want to be a grown-up. I said in the process.
Okay, we're still in that process. Right, okay.
But we do that. And then you've got that, whereas aging is about stopping, is about, if you have an aging, I don't know, table and chairs, it's not because it's falling apart.
It's that difference between, when I kind of talk about we've talked about this before, that difference between being elderly and an elder.
Yes. Yeah.
That's exactly and what we all see as, and what we, put that connotation on being elderly is a bit frail, you know, all those kind of cartoons. It's the thing where you see, you know, when you're driving along and you see the thing like there's an old, you know, old people crossing with their stick, you know, so it's a bit frail, isn't it, like that? Whereas what we're saying is, being an elder, then you have that picture of, you know, the wise woman in the woods and people going to them for a solution,
Yes.
you know, or whatever it is, for the potion.
Because you can't be wise
like
without maturation.
Yeah. You've got to have a bit of experience.
You've got to have the experience of what's right and what's wrong, what works, what doesn't, and other things. And I think that's the beauty of the new birth. Is that you can become that with all of that acquired wisdom.
You can own your face. If you want to kind of have wrinkles, you can.
Can you own someone else's?
Unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. We have a confidence, but you don't have to go out and buy all those things that make your face not look like your face.
No, own it and own your wisdom.
Yeah.
Which I think
is your wisdom,
which is good.
Yeah, the wisdom keeper, and moving forward into a rebirth. So we're feeling quite relaxed and quite, you know, innovative by it. Just like we're feeling quite good about that. So just go forward, be the wisdom keeper.
Be the wisdom keeper. Love it.